In the year of 1944, the Pacific Ocean became the stage for one of the most remarkable submarine operations in all of naval history. The Americans possessed a weapon that operated silently beneath the waves, a vessel of steel that would strike fear into the hearts of Japanese commanders. This underwater warrior carried with it a reputation earned through countless patrols and daring combat operations throughout the vast Pacific. The crew aboard this submarine understood that their mission demanded exceptional skill, unwavering courage, and a determination to see their nation to victory. Japanese naval officers soon learned to fear the name of this particular American submarine, for few vessels in the entire war achieved such devastating results in such a brief period. The USS Harder was not like other submarines in the fleet. She possessed something unique, something that set her apart from all her sister ships. Her commanding officer was a man named Samuel Dealey, and his aggressive tactics, combined with brilliant naval strategy, would soon transform this vessel into a legend of the sea. The crew believed in their captain and in their mission with a passion that bordered on the fanatical. They knew they were operating one of the most powerful instruments of war ever created, and they used their underwater vessel to maximum effect against the Japanese Navy. The USS Harder was a Gato-class submarine, a design that represented the pinnacle of American submarine construction during the Second World War. She had been commissioned into the United States Navy in December of 1942, and from the very beginning, she proved to be an exceptional vessel in every regard. Her hull was constructed of the finest steel available, capable of withstanding the tremendous pressures of deep ocean operations. The submarine was equipped with the latest detection equipment, including sonar systems that allowed her crew to locate enemy vessels even in darkness and poor visibility conditions. Armed with 10 torpedo tubes, 4 in the bow and 2 in the stern, the Harder carried enough firepower to engage multiple targets simultaneously. Her crew consisted of approximately 80 men, each one trained extensively in his particular specialty. These sailors lived in cramped conditions aboard the submarine, but they accepted this sacrifice as part of their duty. The USS Harder represented American engineering excellence and the determination of the American people to prosecute the war against Japan with every weapon at their disposal. Her design was revolutionary, and her capabilities were extraordinary. Commander Samuel Dealey was the officer responsible for commanding the USS Harder during her most famous patrol. Dealey was a man of considerable naval experience, having served in the United States Navy for many years prior to taking command of the submarine. He possessed an aggressive attitude that matched the vessel he commanded, and he believed firmly that submarines should attack enemy targets whenever the opportunity presented itself. Dealey had already earned a reputation as one of the finest submarine commanders in the entire Pacific Fleet. His leadership style was direct, and his tactical decisions were often bold and unconventional compared to other submarine captains. Under his command, the crew of the USS Harder had developed a motto that reflected their fighting spirit: "Hit 'em harder." This simple phrase captured the essence of their mission and the character of every man who served beneath the waves. Dealey's crew respected their commanding officer deeply and followed his orders without hesitation. The combination of an aggressive commander and a crew willing to follow him anywhere created a powerful force that the Japanese Navy would soon come to fear and respect. During the early months of 1944, the USS Harder completed several successful patrols in the Pacific Ocean. The statistics revealed by these patrols demonstrated that this submarine was operating at a level far above that of her sister ships and other submarines in the fleet. While the average American submarine attacked nearly 3 Japanese vessels during each patrol and successfully sank less than 1 target, the USS Harder had already sunk more than 4 ships per patrol during her first 4 operational missions. These remarkable numbers immediately attracted the attention of senior naval officers in the United States Navy. Here was a submarine that was achieving results far beyond what military planners had considered possible. The Japanese Naval Command also began to take notice of the USS Harder, though they did not yet fully comprehend the exceptional danger she represented to their fleet. Intelligence reports started to filter back to Japanese headquarters, describing losses of valuable warships to a single American submarine. These reports caused considerable concern among Japanese military leaders who were already struggling against American naval superiority in the Pacific theater. By June of 1944, the USS Harder set out on what would become her most famous patrol of the entire war. Commander Dealey and his crew were ordered to proceed to an area of the Pacific known as the Sibuyan Sea, a region controlled by Japanese forces and filled with enemy merchant vessels and warships. The Japanese were using this sea as a vital supply route for their military operations throughout the region. American military planners believed that if the Harder could strike effectively in this area, she might inflict serious damage upon Japanese supply lines and naval operations. Dealey accepted this mission with enthusiasm and confidence in his crew and in their submarine. The USS Harder departed on her patrol with all hands ready for combat. The crew knew they were heading into dangerous waters where Japanese anti-submarine forces would be actively patrolling and searching for American submarines. Despite the obvious dangers involved in this mission, the men aboard the Harder showed no hesitation or fear. They believed in their captain, they believed in their submarine, and they believed in their ability to accomplish whatever mission they were given. On the 22nd day of June, 1944, the USS Harder made contact with the first of 5 Japanese destroyers that she would encounter during this remarkable patrol. Destroyer escorts were heavily armed warships equipped with powerful anti-submarine weapons, including depth charges and sophisticated detection equipment. These vessels were far more dangerous to a submarine than merchant ships because they possessed both the firepower and the capability to hunt and destroy underwater vessels. The Japanese destroyer was engaged by the USS Harder using her forward torpedo tubes, and the attack proved immediately successful. The Japanese destroyer was damaged by the American torpedoes and began to sink beneath the waters of the Pacific Ocean. The crew of the USS Harder celebrated their first victory, but Dealey knew that the patrol was far from over. The Japanese would soon become aware that an American submarine was operating in their waters, and they would take measures to defend themselves and their fleet. The destruction of the first destroyer demonstrated that the USS Harder was indeed a formidable opponent, and that the Japanese Naval Command would need to treat this submarine threat with utmost seriousness and concern. Within the next 4 days following the destruction of the first destroyer, an extraordinary sequence of events unfolded that would create naval legend and become the subject of study at naval academies for decades to come. The USS Harder encountered and successfully attacked 4 additional Japanese destroyers, sinking every single one of them in this concentrated and devastating campaign. Each engagement required Dealey to make critical tactical decisions under extreme pressure while operating in enemy-controlled waters. Each attack demanded that the crew of the submarine perform their duties with absolute precision and skill. The Japanese Naval Command was thrown into absolute confusion as one destroyer after another failed to return to port or was reported sunk by American submarine action. Japanese officers could not comprehend how a single American submarine could sink so many valuable warships in such a brief period. The officers aboard the USS Harder knew that they were making naval history, and this knowledge motivated them to greater effort and more aggressive action against the enemy. The entire operation demonstrated the devastating potential of American submarines when commanded by an officer of Dealey's caliber. The second destroyer was sunk on the 24th day of June, just 2 days after the first attack. This vessel, too, was caught on the surface and lacked sufficient time to maneuver away from the attacking submarine. The USS Harder's torpedo attack found their mark with deadly accuracy, and another Japanese destroyer disappeared beneath the waves. The speed with which these attacks were occurring began to create a sense of desperation among Japanese naval commanders in the region. They could not understand where the American submarine was attacking from, or how she was managing to sink so many of their most important warships. Japanese anti-submarine forces were mobilized immediately and began intensive search patterns throughout the Sibuyan Sea. However, their efforts to locate and destroy the USS Harder proved largely unsuccessful because Dealey and his crew were experts at remaining undetected while pursuing their prey. The submarine would attack, dive to deep water to escape retaliatory measures, and then maneuver into position for the next engagement. This cycle repeated itself with remarkable efficiency and devastating results for the Japanese Navy. The third destroyer fell victim to the USS Harder on the 26th of June, continuing the incredible killing streak that had begun just 4 days earlier. Japanese naval records were being rewritten hourly as more and more vessels were reported sunk or missing in the operational area. The Japanese military high command became increasingly concerned about the implications of these losses. They recognized that a single American submarine should not have been capable of sinking so many heavy warships, yet the evidence was undeniable. Japanese naval officers began to fear that the USS Harder represented a new type of threat that their current defensive strategies and tactics were inadequate to address. The Japanese military leadership ordered more aggressive anti-submarine operations throughout the region. Destroyers that would normally have been assigned to other duties were reassigned to hunt for and destroy the American submarine. Merchant convoys were rerouted and given additional destroyer protection. The entire Japanese naval presence in the region was thrown into a state of heightened alert and defensive posture because of the actions of a single American submarine and her crew. During this same period, the USS Harder also successfully attacked and damaged additional Japanese vessels beyond the primary targets that were destroyed. The crew of the submarine remained vigilant and searched constantly for new targets and opportunities to strike against the enemy. Dealey's aggressive leadership meant that whenever a Japanese vessel was spotted, an attack would be launched if there was any reasonable chance of success. The American submariners understood that they were operating far behind enemy lines and that every attack they made represented an opportunity to inflict damage upon the Japanese war machine. The Japanese were suffering heavy losses to their destroyer force, which was particularly serious because destroyers were essential vessels for protecting larger warships and conducting anti-submarine operations. The loss of so many destroyers in such a brief period represented a significant strategic disadvantage for the Japanese Navy. It became increasingly clear that the USS Harder was inflicting damage that would have far-reaching consequences throughout the entire Pacific War campaign. The fourth destroyer was sunk on the 29th of June, continuing the relentless assault that had characterized this famous patrol. By this point, the Japanese military command was in a state of near panic regarding the threat posed by the USS Harder. Japanese naval officers were questioning whether their current defensive measures were adequate to protect their fleet from American submarine attacks. The loss of 4 destroyers in less than a week represented an unprecedented disaster for the Japanese Navy. Commanders in the region were receiving increasingly urgent dispatches from naval headquarters demanding that they locate and destroy the American submarine immediately. However, despite the intensive search efforts, the USS Harder remained elusive and continued to operate effectively against Japanese targets. Dealey and his crew had perfected the art of submarine warfare through months of intensive operational experience and constant combat engagement. They knew exactly how to position their submarine to achieve tactical advantage while avoiding enemy detection and counterattack. The skill and dedication of every man aboard the Harder contributed to the extraordinary success that the submarine was achieving. The fifth and final destroyer in this remarkable 4-day campaign was sunk on July 1st, 1944, bringing to an end one of the most remarkable periods of submarine warfare in the entire history of naval combat. In the span of just 9 days, the USS Harder had sunk 5 Japanese destroyers, which represented an incredible achievement that had never been duplicated by any submarine in any previous naval conflict. The Japanese Naval Command received the news of the fifth destroyer's sinking with profound shock and disbelief. They could not fully comprehend how a single American submarine had managed to accomplish such a devastating feat against one of the most powerful navies in the world. Japanese military leaders realized that they were facing a new kind of threat that required new tactical approaches and defensive strategies. The reputation of the USS Harder grew immensely throughout the Pacific Fleet and among naval officers worldwide. American newspapers published accounts of the submarine's extraordinary achievements and celebrated the crew as heroes. The American public took great pride in the accomplishments of Dealey and his crew. The Japanese response to these devastating losses was swift and absolutely thorough. Japanese naval commanders in the Pacific immediately implemented new defensive protocols and tactical procedures designed to protect their remaining destroyer force from further American submarine attacks. New anti-submarine patrols were established throughout all regions where American submarines were known to operate. The Japanese also increased the deployment of specialized anti-submarine vessels and improved their detection equipment and tactical capabilities. However, despite these measures, the USS Harder continued to prove that she was a formidable opponent that could not be easily neutralized or driven from the waters in which she operated. Dealey refused to allow the Japanese defensive measures to intimidate him or his crew. He continued to pursue an aggressive operational strategy that kept the initiative firmly in American hands. The crew of the USS Harder had demonstrated to themselves and to the entire world that courage, skill, and determination could achieve remarkable results even against overwhelming odds. The immediate tactical significance of the USS Harder's achievements during this patrol extended far beyond the simple destruction of 5 Japanese destroyers. The loss of so many valuable warships severely degraded Japanese naval capabilities in the region and forced Japanese commanders to make difficult decisions regarding the deployment and utilization of their remaining destroyer force. Japanese naval power projection in the Sibuyan Sea and surrounding waters was significantly weakened by these losses. The psychological impact on Japanese military personnel was also considerable, as officers and sailors throughout the Japanese fleet became aware that American submarines posed an extraordinary threat to their safety and security. The USS Harder had proven that a single well-trained submarine crew, under expert leadership, could inflict damage that matched or exceeded what entire combat fleets might achieve. This reality forced Japanese military planners to reassess their strategic calculations and make significant adjustments to their operational plans throughout the Pacific theater. The broader strategic implications of the USS Harder's success extended throughout the entire Pacific War campaign. American military leadership recognized that submarines were extraordinarily valuable assets that could achieve results far beyond what had been anticipated or expected during the early stages of the war. The success of Dealey and his crew provided powerful evidence that investing in submarine development and training was one of the wisest decisions that American military planners had made. Other submarine commanders were motivated by the accomplishments of the USS Harder to push themselves and their crews to greater levels of achievement and aggressive action against the enemy. The entire American submarine force in the Pacific began to operate with greater confidence and more aggressive tactics as a result of the success demonstrated by the Harder. Japanese naval planners became increasingly concerned about submarine operations and devoted more resources to anti-submarine warfare and defensive measures. The balance of naval power in the Pacific continued to shift further in favor of the United States. The crew members of the USS Harder received significant recognition and praise for their extraordinary accomplishments during this famous patrol. Commander Samuel Dealey was recognized for his brilliant tactical leadership and his ability to inspire his men to perform at the highest levels under extreme stress and dangerous conditions. Dealey was awarded the Navy Cross, one of the highest decorations for combat excellence that the United States Navy could bestow upon an officer. His crew members also received appropriate recognition and medals for their outstanding service and contributions to the success of the patrol. The name USS Harder became synonymous with submarine excellence and aggressive combat operations throughout the entire American naval service. Naval academies and training institutions throughout the United States used the accomplishments of Dealey and his crew as case studies for instruction on submarine tactics and naval leadership. The standards established by the USS Harder became benchmarks that other submarine crews strived to match or exceed. The legacy of the USS Harder and Commander Samuel Dealey continues to influence naval operations and submarine warfare doctrine to the present day. Military historians regard this patrol as one of the most successful submarine operations in the entire history of naval warfare. The achievements of the USS Harder demonstrated that submarines could be extraordinarily effective weapons when commanded by officers possessing the skill, courage, and tactical brilliance necessary for effective leadership. The patrol also demonstrated the importance of adequate training, proper maintenance of equipment, and the development of crews that possessed exceptional skill and dedication to their duty. Students of military history continue to study the USS Harder's operations to understand the principles of effective leadership and tactical excellence in combat operations. The story of this remarkable submarine and her crew remains as relevant and instructive to modern military personnel as it was to those who experienced these events during the Second World War. In the annals of submarine warfare and the broader history of the Pacific War, the USS Harder occupies a place of supreme importance and recognition. The accomplishments of this single submarine and her crew represented a turning point in American understanding of how submarines could be effectively employed in naval combat operations. The Japanese Navy, which had once dominated the Pacific Ocean, found itself increasingly vulnerable to American submarine attacks as the war progressed. The loss of 5 destroyers in 4 days by a single submarine demonstrated that even the most powerful navies were vulnerable to well-coordinated and aggressive submarine operations. The USS Harder proved that courage, skill, and determination could achieve remarkable results, and that no enemy warship was beyond the reach of a determined American submarine crew. The memory of the USS Harder and her crew serves as an enduring testament to the sacrifice, courage, and exceptional skill displayed by American naval personnel during the Second World War. Their achievements helped secure victory in the Pacific and demonstrated the extraordinary potential of submarine warfare when properly executed and skillfully commanded.